All right, so the Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Let us pray. Almighty and ever-living God, ruler of all things in heaven and earth, hear our prayers for this our St. Barnabas parish family. Strengthen the faithful, arouse the careless, and restore the penitent. Grant us all things necessary for our common life, and bring us all to be of one heart and mind within your holy church. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Amen. And now I turn this over to our senior warden, who needs no introduction.
Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jim. So, if I do need to be introduced, my name is Craig Weatherup, for those of you who may not know who I am. And I am the senior warden, so I have the assignment of trying to talk about stewardship and specifically in the context of giving some information. So, I'm going to go through this little deck, and then there's a copy that you can take with you, and we'll have some time at the end, and Jim Berg, who's, of course, the stewardship chair, and Father Jim will join me, and the three of us can answer any questions you might have. So, Chris, you can go ahead. Thank you. So, I'm really going to try to do two things. One is to really go back and talk a little bit about the discernment process and where we are in terms of making our dreams come true. And then secondarily, I'm going to talk to, obviously, how do we provide the resources to do that. And our goal today is, as I think you probably remember from the discernment process, was one of the themes was it's hard for people to understand exactly what is needed unless we're more clear or more transparent relative to giving you the information. So this is really about information and information relative to our finances and our needs. And I am going to need your help today because I'm in a little bit of trouble. I sent this, this was my announcement in the bulletins the last couple of weeks, and at the bottom here I put our financial dilemma is very real, and our rector, I actually had crisis in there, but Ann Hott said he'll kill you if you do that, so I put dilemma. So while this is serious, I'm hoping that this will not be a burden for you, and I actually would rather try to inspire you. So I need your help to be inspired as well. So Jim will give me a break. Okay. So I won't go through all of what was said at the season of discernment, but it was a great deal. And if I could remind you, as Jim put in his, this was back in April. This is a summary of the discernment process, and as Jim said, it was 7 weeks, 600 people, 60 pages of notes. I read every note, as did Jim and the rest of the vestry. And there were two really big takeaways. One was more of what we love and do it better. And I was trying to think how to illustrate that for you in a simple way. And luckily, the Mockingbird Messenger arrived on Thursday, so I don't know how many of you have received it in the mail, but on email it came on Thursday. And just looking at this messenger of a couple of days ago, so there's this 10 commandments of parenting, grandparenting. You're going to hear all about that. There's the chili cook-off next week. Nick, we now have our own hashtag HF, Hybrid Faith Formation, and Nick talks about a new hybrid TAYS group, a Gathering Families group in the other cup, Church Next, something with the bishop we're putting on. You'll hear all about the Mexican Fiesta as part of our Consecration Sunday. We're going to have a brand new All Saints Choral Mass, a sung service. Our new small Bible study groups are forming. The new Centering Prayer Group is forming. Spiritual Direction, something that Connie and I just completed, is going to be having a new session starting in January. The Healing Prayer Ministry, next steps. You're going to be introduced this morning, if you weren't already, to a new stewardship journal and a whole process. There's the men's retreat at Chapel Rock. Broadway Bash, family-friendly mission trip. This is the one up to Lillian Valley School in Idaho, and Angel Tree and Hearts and Hands, and so on and so on. So I think anybody who might have had a question relative to looking to have us do more and better of what you might expect out of St. Barnabas, we are doing that. So you should feel great about that. And then you said, and very importantly, in addition to that, in addition to more of what you love about St. Barnabas, and everybody does love St. Barnabas, that was clear. You said really must, and I underline must because that's what you said, ensure that we really have a growing and dynamic and very alive St. Barnabas today and in the future. And the four things that came out of that that you see on the screen here, one was more entry points, and again, especially for not only existing members, but new members. How do people connect with St. Barnabas? A clear charge to reach out to younger families, younger individuals, and really, again, growing the younger side of this church. Many of you said we needed to communicate in a new language and a better language and a clear language. And to me, and I think to Jim, all of us at the vestry, what that said is, if you're less than 50, obviously, you find a restaurant on the internet, off your iPhone. If you went near a Starbucks, you check your app. If you want to go to a movie, if you want to buy a car, you go to the internet. If you want to buy a house, you go to the internet. And if you want to find a church, you go to the internet. So we needed to find a way to do that. And then in addition to this point about Jim had written about connect, again, the whole umbrella of this was communicating. And communicating more, communicating better, and communicating differently. And again, especially for people who are younger and not here, but looking for us, and we are looking for them. So that's kind of a summary of that. And then, so kind of 6 months later, kind of where are we? And I think you really all ought to recognize the work that Jim and the staff have done. I can't tell you, I don't get to say this very often, but I spent a lot of time with your rector as the senior warden, and if you take the last 6 months, everything that's been done, the things I'm going to talk about in a second, it really is a tribute to Jim's leadership. I mean, the reality is that these last 6 months, you've been working a lot the last 10 years, but these last 6 months have been a staggering amount of work, all of this activity, and during that period of time, Nick was welcomed on board, so Nick is doing a great job, but getting up to speed. Deborah was in the middle of her search process, and if you haven't heard about that, you'll hear about that, I guess, at the next service. And of course, Erica decided to have twins right in the middle of this plan. So I just can't. I think you should give Jim a round of applause. He's done a tremendous amount of work. So. And obviously, the good news is he had a lot of help from the rest of the staff and from all the lay leaders and the lay volunteers, your vestry, and everybody else. So these were kind of just some of the points, again, that came out of the season of discernment. These were kind of, I think, Jim, you labeled them as new entry points, if you will. So one was, again, the whole church to you, really, again, a kind of electronic way to bring St. Barnabas out to others. And Jim's blog is, I'm on that blog, I think there's 100? How many do you have?
Oh, 146 or 7.
Okay, so there's 146 people on Jim's blog. Erica has a blog now. Nick, I think, has started one. Deborah, it's just, again, something that's really up and operating, if you will. One of the challenges was how do we make sure that people are more attuned to the ministry opportunities at St. Barnabas, again, the various commissions and committees and so on, and how do we do that better, either welcome people, communicate better with people, and Jim conducted a couple of managing ministry better workshops for all the lay leaders of the parish. So those were done. One of the things that came out of the discernment process was, again, could we do more with our youth? And I missed the Company of Heaven performance in the Music Center, but I've heard nothing but rave reviews. So the Company of Heaven is up and operating. Our chapel is open right now, at least it should be. The chapel is something that came out of the season of discernment. We have this wonderful chapel, and how do we find a way to have more utility of it so that it could be used for different groups, and how can we just access it more just to go in and pray? So we are looking to do that. That's underway. There was a lot of input about doing something with men, mostly from women, by the way. And I heard from a lot of wives. So we actually have started that process. So last week, was it last week, TJ? Was it? Well, I think it was last week. Yeah, a few days ago, we had dinner with kind of a gang of 17 men up at the house, and so we have a process that's underway, which we're all looking forward to. And our labyrinth. Those of you who remember the labyrinth, I think was here when Connie and I first came. It was just going away. So one of the requests was that it be brought back, and I think it will be brought back in a very attractive way. So Tom Hott and a group of volunteers have that underway. So those things are all have been happening. And then lastly, additionally, you said that we just needed to move, again, far more aggressively to ensure we grow, we remain dynamic, vital, and really ensure the future of St. Barnabas and the future of it with others. So there's two kind of big steps in that direction. One is the Saturday night service, and I know a number of you are involved in that and doing research around the valley. There's been a lot of work, and we've been getting a monthly report on that at the vestry meetings, and it's been very, very exciting. It's targeted to younger families, younger individuals, and again, new members to St. Barnabas. And it's been underway. We're still some months away, but we are gearing up to, in fact, launch this. It'd be called Saturday Night Life at the moment. I think that's the working title. And again, something that will be a huge part of our ability to grow and to, again, remain dynamic and vital. And the second piece of that, and in support of that new outreach, and the rest of the communications challenges we have and the things we need to do, is our whole communications effort. And again, the question is, how do we reach beyond where we reach today? And that entails a great deal of work and a great deal of effort. And again, we're ready to move forward with that. It's a major, major step. So I think as you've challenged us and as we've challenged ourselves, we are ready to grow. And again, that is getting the word out, the message out, with a new medium and to an added audience, not just to ourselves, but to those who are looking to embrace a wonderful, wonderful, faith-filled place of great, great people like St. Barnabas. And then, obviously, sharing what we really have, which is our job as disciples at the end of the day. And the but, of course, is that we need resources, and specifically in three areas. I'm going to talk primarily about our income line, which is basically our pledges and plate. But I'm going to talk about the pledge income, since that's the core of how we operate. That's the core of our funding. And then I'll talk briefly about the Legacy Endowment, and then how we renew our campus. But if I talk about pledge income for a second, and resources in general, this is my third and final year as your senior warden, and I've loved it. But and the fact remains, we were putting together our financial plans, especially as I was coming in as senior warden and working with Jim and Trish and the vestry. Basically, we anticipated that our pledge income would be growing in 2012 and 2013, and that has not happened. I mean, the reality was 2009, 2010, 2011 obviously was a very difficult financial time for everyone, including ourselves, everybody. And but that period of time is somewhat behind us, and philanthropy, which took a big dip in the 2009, 10, and 11, has rebounded last year and rebounded this year. So we expected that would, in fact, be apparent at St. Barnabas as well. And secondarily, we'd finished, I think, again, Connie and I just arrived in time to write a check for the capital campaign before this last one. And then we had our second capital campaign. So we've had some major capital work, and this parish has been very generous. We've raised roughly, I think, $7 million, and obviously added to this fabulous campus. But that's been over with a couple of years. So again, from a planning standpoint, we assume that people who potentially couldn't pledge or hadn't pledged because the capital campaign would start pledging, or in fact, just our income would come up. But that has not happened. So that's one subject I want to talk about very briefly. And then on the Legacy Endowment, the issue is basically we've had some new bequests. Obviously, our strong desire would be to put them into our Legacy Endowment, so they are there to generate income for the church of the future. But as I think you all know, those endowments have actually been used to cover our operating shortfall, and that's been the case for a number of years, not just the last couple. So that's a second issue. And then while we have this wonderful campus every time Connie and I walk on this campus, we're just struck how stunning it is. Any day, any time, and it gets used a great deal by us and by others, but we have no maintenance budget, renewal budget. So we have a lot of line items in our budget, but we have nothing for campus maintenance or campus renewal. So, which has been a challenge for us. We had the good news, by the way, is people have stepped up at times when we've needed it. We tried to help out the music program, and a few years ago, half a dozen people put in some funds, and we bought a couple of pianos and new robes for the choir. We had a parishioner who was concerned about the need for the new lighting, the safety issues we had, and so an individual, a family contributed to the lighting and the parking lot. And most recently, a wonderful parishioner who is anonymous, but I know, decided to finally fix our ramada. So we've had some of those things done, but we basically have no budget. So probably most of you didn't notice, but the main water main that comes in, busted outside of your office there, right? And we basically did not have the funds to dig it up and repair it, which we need to. So we patched it and covered it back up, and hoping that it's not going to break again for a while. But we just have there's no line item. So if the pipe breaks, somebody has to write a check, and I have to go around and knock on doors and say, anybody want to fix a pipe? And it's not an easy sell. So the idea is to have a line item in our budget. So if I can talk to the pledge income, again, this is a wonderful parish with very generous people, and it has a big budget, but it's a big parish, and we use it all. So basically our pledge income, and this is rounded, but it's almost exactly the same, has been basically $1.4 million for 2011, 2012, 2013. And we've had the same number of pledging units, about 450 each year. So there's two things we're looking to do. Obviously get more people to pledge and to increase the amount of those pledges. And again, I'd be remiss and I'd be less than transparent if I didn't say that we had 50 households last year who increased their pledges. So we did have a meaningful number of people increase their pledges, and by a significant amount of money. And so that was the great news. But we also had 50 households that decreased their pledges by exactly the same amount of money. And obviously we all of us have different hardships and different needs at different points in time and different priorities, which is great. But obviously one of the concerns I have is if nobody knows what our need is, and some other charity's knocking on the door, or there's another need someplace that people would say, well, we don't have the need, then I will help somebody else, which is a wonderful thing to do. But we want to make sure that the information exists so that, in fact, people can make an informed decision of how they use their philanthropic resources. So the needs are basically this $132,000. That's the number relative to 2014, and it really addresses these four things. One is the campus renewal, which again is fixing the broken water pipe, And the children's playground. We actually need to fix the playground. I think we have $11,000 in gifts from two parishioners, and we'd like to finish that work. But basically, while we'd like a bigger line item, $25,000 seemed like a reasonable place to start on campus renewal. And then insurance. I won't go into insurance as a subject, and Obamacare and all the ins and outs of insurance, but you all know the challenges with insurance. We have our own particular challenge. We have some new families, and so our insurance cost is going up $32,000, so we have to cover that. I'm actually kind of concerned about the cost of our insurance, as is Jim, so I called the bishop, and I met with one of his staff people on Friday. So one of the tasks of the finance committee will be to really kind of relook at our insurance approach. And it's not easy to get at. It's done by the National Episcopal Church, but there are some options and some ways to think about it more creatively. So anyhow, I've talked to the bishop's office, and we're going to look at that. And then the really exciting step is to really move with a new Saturday night service, a new website. Our website is wonderful, but antiquated to the nth degree. If you're most of us here are not 30, but if you were, you would find our website poor and not useful to what you need. And I think that's true for a 30-year-old member of St. Barnabas, not just somebody from the outside, in terms of being able to access what we want. And it's wonderful from where it was. It just needs to go to a whole different level. And obviously, we're looking to find tools and vehicles and mediums and media to actually, again, communicate, and internally to all of us, and certainly externally. So the website, the tools are there, and then we're hoping to find some relatively inexpensive but incredibly talented communications person who can do all of this for us, so that it isn't a burden to the staff. And actually, while we have a wonderful staff and a wonderful rector, we don't have the talent or the capability to do this. So we need somebody to help us. So basically, what we're looking for basically is a 10% increase in our pledge income line. And again, I think everybody has interest and loves and needs with friends and families and education, the arts, and Nature Conservancy, you name it. But we just wanted you to know exactly what our challenge was this coming year. Okay. So then I just thought I'd spend a second on a second challenge. And the good news is basically this is a challenge for next year, 2015. And I was going to present this as one challenge. It just seemed kind of overwhelming, so we kind of splitting this into a 2014-2015 challenge. But we've not been able to grow the legacy fund the way we would have hoped. It has grown from $1 million to $1.5 million the last 3 years. That's the great news. But that's basically 3 gifts from some parishioners, living parishioners. So that's the good news. And that $1.5 million, we take a 4% income from that. So that $60,000 is a big part of our operating budget. So it's not insignificant. But the whole purpose of an endowment and the whole approach to endowments is to add to them basically with bequests. And we've had 3 bequests. They're actually each are about $125,000. And unfortunately, we've had to use them to bridge our operating numbers. So, and the good news, again, in the spirit of transparency, we have a gift for next year, for 2014, from Dorothy Gibson. I think was Sue, and so Ms. Gibson has gave us this bequest, which we received a couple of months ago. So we have that 125 for next year. We have nothing for 2015. Jim has assured me, as he has every year, that the Holy Spirit will provide, but I don't know who the individual who's going to carry that out is at this point. So as of the moment, we don't have those funds. So the good news is, we have those funds for next year. The bad news is they are not going into the endowment, which is where they should be going. So anyhow, I won't beat that to death, but it is something, again, you should be aware of just as you think about the information you might want to know or need to think about St. Barnabas. And the reason I'm such a broken record on making sure that everybody has St. Barnabas in their will and in their estate plan is that, again, building up our endowment at the end of the day is something that's still up on our list of things to do. So, making our dreams come true. We have a wonderful parish. We certainly have very generous people, as has been demonstrated over and over again. And as you can see in all the things I showed you and talked about, the Holy Spirit is incredibly alive and well in this place, and that's what's great. And I think the challenge is, and the dilemma is merely the fact that we need the resources to allow us to continue to move forward, and to grow, and again be vital and dynamic, versus decline. And my approach to pretty much everything is either you grow or you decline. There's not much status quo in life, and again, we just have a great opportunity. I think you've seen all that's been accomplished, and obviously the goal is just to move that out into the future. So it'll be more of what we love, sharing St. Barnabas with others, as we've talked, and again, making sure we have this growing and alive and dynamic future. I hope the need is clear, and I hope that you feel informed, which was the purpose of this session, and I hope you feel not burdened but inspired. And at the risk of my small tenure left as senior warden, I wanted to close with a cartoon that is high risk given the boss is right here, but my wife kind of says I'm always too serious, and Jim said I need to lighten up. So in the spirit of not ending on a serious note, this is a cartoon which I'll read the first two, and you can then I'll put up the punchline. So this is Stewardship Sunday. The rector is standing at the podium there, and says, "As we launch our annual giving campaign, I have good news and I have bad news. The good news, we have all the money we need for next year's budget. The bad news is the money is still in your wallets." Okay, that's it. So, assuming I'm still employed, non-compensation employment. So Jim Berg is here, and obviously Jim is here as well. So if you have any questions, either I think really relative to kind of all the initiatives and the access points and where we're going with our dreams, or questions relative to our finances and anything I didn't cover, or anything about the campaign that Jim is heading up. I think you all received the materials in the mail, and including the Stewardship Journal. And those of you who were at the 7:45 service already heard from Jim relative to that journal, and those of you who are going to the 10:15 will hear about it in a moment. So there'll be some more information this morning coming from Father Jim. So do you have any questions for myself or Jim? Ann, you're supposed to know everything. Mike, how could you ask a question?
I'm very blessed because my husband and I just returned from about 2 weeks in California for our daughter's wedding. And we were driving around and saw this little sign that said St. Columba's Episcopal Church. My husband can't go past an Episcopal church without going up, and when he saw that they had a new parking lot, he was especially intrigued. So we had an opportunity to visit with this church that is an absolutely beautiful church. It was the summer cottage of Robert Frick, and was given or purchased by the bishop. It is beautiful. It's redwood. It is absolutely gorgeous. My husband also has to talk with the rector at a church, and he asked him what his challenges are. And he shared that his challenges are not unlike ours at all. But really what I wanted to say was that since I just got back, I wasn't a part of this presentation, so I get to be a parishioner. But I also get to share what I know, and that is that the planning for Saturday Night Life is not just for a Saturday night service. I'm so impressed. I'm not a part of that committee, and I'm so impressed because the plan is proceeding as if it is a church plant. And what that means is that the intention is to truly go after people who are not here, and truly go after a younger audience, and truly, this is the way we build the St. Barnabas that will be here in 40 years. I think that it is remarkable, and if I did not know that, I might think that it would only be for those of us that are here, but the plan is indeed as vigorous towards new growth as it can possibly be. And then the second thing I wanted to say is that thanks to Sue Gibson, we have the endowment that, or the money that will allow us to not face that big zero until 2015. But it's really an opportunity, because if pledge income were to go up this year, we can make the most of that. This is an opportunity for us in this next year to go for Saturday Night Live, to go for the other opportunities that are here, to really make that difference that will be a big turning point for us. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much, Ann. And before the next question, on the Saturday Night Live, again, it's just to echo Ann's point, I can't describe the amount of work and interest and energy that's gone into that. Pam Bell and David Carmichael are the co-chairs. And again, the vestry gets to look every 30 days to get a report on that. And again, the learning we've had, the information we've gathered, the ideas that have been generated by going to other services like that and around the valley, some of these huge, very successful services has been enlightening as well as just incredibly encouraging. So I think we do feel, as Ann said, that we have a wonderful parish, not wonderful church, and wonderful people to offer to others. And I share Ann's excitement that it is a real pivotal stake in the ground for us and for all of us. That will benefit all of us as soon as we do it, and benefit us in the future. So, yes.
Craig, I just want to say thank you to you and the rest of the Finance Committee who have prepared this preparation. I think you're addressing very directly an issue that's been here at St. Barnabas for a long time. A lot of people have been very generous with special projects, and we all can enjoy that. Nobody wants to say, I'm paying for the pipe repair.
Right.
Nobody wants to say that they're going to pay for replacement of light bulbs. And it's foundational work, and I'm really glad to hear that we're talking about it openly. I think we need to continue that. It's very important for our parish, so thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. One over here. And then Alice. Yep.
I was interested in your comments about the fact that the pledging units has apparently gotten stuck, maybe backsliding a bit.
Yeah.
And what is the potential of our pledging units, and what specifically can we do to reach those potential,
Right.
and how may the rest of us help do that? To me, it's easier to attack the folks that you have in the barn
Yeah.
and know who they are,
Okay.
and rather than go chasing around the country to get in new persons at the moment. And so I just wondered how we might help.
It was a great question,
Thank you, Dick. Good question.
and something that's important to Jim as well.
You want me,
Yes,
I thought
please.
you wanted me to answer.
I do.
So Actually, we've had a slight increase in numbers of households pledging, a little bit. Now,
A couple.
well, we always do this,
Yeah.
but I think we've had about a 6% increase in the last 3 years, so it's not nothing. Actually, yeah, at least that much. We lose 50 families a year. How about that? And that's either we lose them. They either die or they move, or a lot of time, or they go back into retirement centers, or they go back to where their families are. Occasionally, we lose people because they're unhappy with us for one reason or another, but that's really rare. So every year, to stay even, we need to have about 50 new households every year just to stay even. And we have a pretty. Can I finish and then come back?
Yep.
Okay.
No. Yep. Please.
We have a very I would say aggressive, maybe a better word is assertive approach to new people when they come visit us, and I think we do well, especially statistically compared to other parishes. I think we do well in retaining people that come see us. So the challenge is to get the word out that we're here. Instead of just being welcoming to the people that find us, how do we get to the word out to people that don't know we're here? And that's part of all of this communication strategy, and what we're talking about is how we do that. With respect to your the other sort of theme of what you said, Dick, I don't know. I want to say this carefully. I don't know how to encourage people that are here and don't make a pledge. I don't know how to encourage them more than what we're already doing to do that. And I am very sensitive to people's financial circumstances and how they change, and I don't know why people don't make a pledge. And so I'm not willing to call on people who are not pledging just because they're not pledging. I just, because I don't know why, and I don't want to be insensitive to people's financial circumstances. So rather than that, we just do a full-on announcement that we're having our pledge drive and our campaign, and we do everything we can to inform people just like this forum and inspire them and encourage them and let them know that it's their pledging that gives us the resources to do the work that we feel God has given us to do. Beyond that, I don't have an answer. So, Phyllis, you had a...
My question was following up on Dick's question of if the number, how many families come to St. Barnabas and 450 of them pledge. I was looking for a number, and I think that, and maybe this isn't the appropriate forum. No, you shouldn't be calling on the people that aren't pledging, but maybe we should have some mechanism for our stewardship committee or a subcommittee of them to call on the people that aren't pledging, not to ask them for money, just to connect with them, to make sure, find out what's going on in their lives, that they're maybe not coming to church and don't know what's going on, and therefore aren't connected to us.
So that's a right now we have 457, I think. Is it, what'd you say?
456.
456 pledging households. Don't you love it? 456 pledging households. I think we mail to 900 families. Is that right, Ann? Roughly, we mail to 900, and some of those though are families with two homes, and so but mostly it's 900 households. I think total households, if I'm not mistaken. I'm open to the possibility that we could be more intentional about recruiting those families. However, they all got the same letter you received. And they have every, I don't know who comes to church and who doesn't. We take attendance, but we don't do a roll. So I can't measure that. I can't know that. They get the regular mailings, the newsletters, and all the announcements about life at St. Barnabas. And And my hope is that 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 will inspire people and encourage people as much as we can do. I'm open that there's another way to reach out to families who are not pledging, and a lot of people have asked me that. Every stewardship chair has asked me. Jimmy Berg's coming. You gonna come in? He's asked me, and we've talked. And in the last conversation we had, I thought we were in agreement that it's challenging to reach out to people that don't pledge because you don't know why. And hang on just a second. There's one thing that's important for me to say. I need to say this carefully. Very few staff members know how much people pledge. We're very careful to keep that confidential. But the clergy tend to know who pledges. And so from time to time we sit together over households that don't pledge, and it's surprising how much we know about people's circumstances. And there's reasons that people don't pledge, and we know that, and we're just very careful about what we would say to them about the fact that they're not pledging. So Jimmy.
Thank you. I just wanted to cover a point that Jim made and make a point with regard to Phyllis's question. This past week, everybody in the parish received a letter, and it was from me, and it talked about this very point. It talked about the point that those of us who do pledge and who have pledged were asking to increase their pledges for the reasons that Craig went over, reasons that we came up with. We also addressed the question of individuals who, for whatever reason, have decided not to pledge. They're members of our church, but they've decided not to pledge. I think rather than finding out who they are and calling them, because I think they have been approached in a courteous and respectful way in the past, our mission is to make the information available about our financial condition to all of us, as Craig has done, as the vestry has done, as our clergy have done, and give people an opportunity to read through that information and understand it and respond the way they can to the best of their ability and in a faithful way. And if that means increasing their pledge, we would welcome that. If that means continuing their pledge, obviously we'll welcome that as well. If it means starting to pledge, making a starter pledge, even a small one, we would welcome that as well. All of those are faithful and important responses to the needs that have been articulated about the parish we love so much. And remember, the reason we're doing this, the reason we're focusing this way this year, is because we all sat together in this room 8 months ago, 7 months ago, and we said to ourselves, this is what we want. Now's our chance to get what we want. So that's, I guess, my message on behalf of our stewardship committee. Thank you.
Thanks, Jimmy.
And Phyllis, to your point, we are, I actually forgot, Pat's back there, we actually are taping this, so the idea is to try again by the way, you can pick up this little deck if you want to when you're leaving, and is to get this information out by snail mail, on the internet. We've approached, tried a few things to educate our winter visitors who may be not here yet, who will be coming, and many of whom do support the church. But as Jim said, it's just an ongoing challenge. But I think there's no question, we actually are dialing up the communication this year in hopes of actually increasing not only the average pledge, but importantly, to Dick's point, actually getting some other people in the barn, right, that we can have as part of the pledging family. And I think,
Yeah.
Alice,
It's about this planning for the Saturday night life service. If you're a visitor online, you might have seen something about how this has not been as successful to go with these kind of mixed media, large services for the liturgical churches, the Episcopal churches. And I'm hoping that we have found a model that we can follow of somebody, some other church of that nature that has been successful at that, doing that. And I'm wondering if whoever is involved with the planning on that, if it's you, Jim, if you could address that.
Yeah, let me. Pam is not here. She's at her child's wedding, and I don't see Dave Carmichael's not here this morning. Yeah. So, oh, he's there too. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I didn't get an invite. No, just kidding. So David and Pam and their committee have done an enormous amount of research, and it's true that the sort of mega Bible church model doesn't relate well to our Episcopal tradition. And it's also true that there are some Episcopal churches who are doing this well. There are some Roman Catholic churches that are doing this well. What we're thinking about for Saturday Night Live. And I don't want to embarrass anyone here, but his initials are Nicholas Roosevelt, is our new deacon priest, who is 26 years old, just graduated from seminary, and brings to us a wealth of different ways of thinking about church. And he spent a lot of time in seminary working on how to do church both as Anglican Episcopalians and how to do it differently in a way that engages younger people. And the way that they engage life, how can we let that influence how we do church? Am I being fair, Nick? And so I don't want to put it all on him because we've done a lot of research and we had a lot of help, but Nick brings to us a different kind of resource as we do this. Now, let me also add, we were originally going to start Advent 1. Then we were going to start Lent 1. Now we think we're going to start next fall because there's so much to do it well. And we want to be ready to do it well. And we want our communications and advertising and marketing effort, and I use those words, we're going to market. We're going to, everybody else markets, why can't we? So we want to get that way out in front of the actual launch date because it's like Ann said, it's almost like a new church plant. There's no guarantees anything will be successful, but we're going to put our oar in the water in the best way we possibly can, and we're going to trust Jesus for the outcome. So,
Susie?
Well, first of all, I'm so glad that you included the cartoon because we talked about that last week and he was a little nervous about it, and I really encouraged him to use it because it's true. I mean, I am the owner of a small business, and we've been through lots of financial ups and downs in the past. We've been open for coming into our 12th year now. And we have to make money decisions every day about how we can make the dollar go a little bit farther. Just all of the decisions that we all have to make in our lives, whether you're a business owner or just run a household or whatever you do in life, we all have to make those hard decisions. And I think, first of all, knowing what the needs are is critical. And the way it was presented was sometimes numbers. I'm not a numbers girl, and sometimes numbers can be confusing. But this was very easy to understand and put it in a way that I think we can all know what we all need to do. And even if it's a small amount, there are things in our lives that we can evaluate, and we can figure out a way to stretch that dollar a little bit farther. And I think this has given us some great information to take that home and really pray about it, quite honestly, because that's really what it comes down to. And it didn't hurt that Jim told us last week that maybe instead of worrying about things, we ought to pray about things, and we might get better results that way. So thank you so much for all of the work, for staff. And I can't tell you, because I do meet with this man on a pretty regular basis, and this parish has had a fantastic senior warden.
Oh, thank you, Susie.
And we're very blessed to have him. So.